Ahora es el turno de la exposición del destacado profesor de Oregon State University, el señor Ling Long, con la temática de cómo optimizar la elección de nuevas variedades y Portainjertos con la pregunta propuesta que nos encontramos fuera de Colt, Santina y Lapins. Por favor, damos la bienvenida al profesor Ling Long.
It's a pleasure for me to be here again at this seminar. I have had the privilege of participating in all 8 of the PEC International seminars from the very beginning, and it's always great to be back here in Chile. Today we're going to talk about the future of rootstocks and varieties with a presentation entitled Beyond Colt, Royal Dawn, and Santina, What the Future Holds. So when we look at the rootstocks that are currently available in Chile, we see quite a number of rootstocks, including Colt, the Gisela series, Maxima 14 and Maxima 60. But we also see from this list here on the right that there are a number of different rootstocks that are not currently available here in Chile, that hopefully will be available very soon. Gisela 13 and 17, Crimps 5 and 6, which is here in Chile right now, but is not currently readily available. YG 1, 2, and 3, and then a new series out of Michigan State University called the Corret series, Cass, Clare, Clinton, Lake, and Crawford. Here you see the relative size of trees that these rootstocks will produce. Anywhere from the full-size Mazard, Mahaleb, Colt, and Maxima 60 to the slightly dwarfing Gisela 12, Gisela 17, Crimps 5, Maxima 14, and YG 3. And then we have the Gisela 6, Gisela 13, YG 1, and Crimps 6. And then a rootstock that is intermediate between Gisela 6 and Gisela 5, YG 2. We'll have the Gisela 5 along with Clinton, Gisela 3 with Lake, Cass, and Crawford, and then the very dwarfing Clare at 35 to 40% the size of the full-size rootstocks. So in preparation for this presentation, I asked a number of growers what they would like to see in the next cherry rootstock. And I got a number of responses from that. We're going to focus on 5 traits that they came up with. And what they said is that they would like to see our next cherry rootstock be able to increase the productivity of some of the lower yielding varieties. For us in the Pacific Northwest, that would be something like Regina or Benton, perhaps. Here in Chile, maybe we would be talking about consistently increasing the productivity of varieties such as Bing, Regina, and Skina. The second thing they came up with was that they wanted to see a rootstock that would provide precocity while moderating the oversetting potential of some of the higher yielding varieties. Varieties such as Lapins or maybe even Royal Dawn. The third thing that they said was that they would like to see a rootstock that had the potential a lot like some of the apple rootstocks. Similar, good precocity, similar to Gisela 5, but more forgiving. Consistently good fruit set, without affecting fruit size severely. And then they said that they would like to see 2 vigor levels with the rootstocks: precocity with vigor and precocity with size control. And then finally they said that they would like to see a precocious size controlling rootstock that performs well in poorer soils. So we are going to talk about each one of these traits individually and see how some of these new rootstocks might be able to meet some of these traits that the growers would like to see. So we're going to start with the first one. Is we're looking for a rootstock that will increase the productivity of some of the lower yielding varieties. And here, I want to focus on the new Michigan State University rootstocks, this Corret series. And here you see the Lake, Cass, Clinton, Crawford, and Clare on the left of this chart. And then the control is Gisela 6 and Gisela 5. This is the average number of spurs on Bing trees grafted on these 5 rootstocks and Gisela 5 and Gisela 6 in the 3rd leaf. And what we're seeing is that all 5 of the Corret cherry rootstocks induce sign flowering greater or equal to Gisela 5 and Gisela 6 in the 3rd leaf. So how does that relate then to yields and fruit size? This is a study that I am doing currently in the Dalles, Oregon. Has Regina on steep leader training system. And here you see data for the 4th leaf and the 5th leaf. So in the 4th leaf, which was 2018, we had a year where Regina set fruit on every rootstock. And you can see that here. Gisela 5, 18 tons per hectare. Gisela 6, 23 tons per hectare with reasonable fruit size. But it goes all the way down the list. In the 4th leaf, we have high yields on all of the rootstocks. This last year, 2019, was more typical of what we get from Regina. Gisela 5, 3.8 tons per hectare. And obviously that is not enough yield to sustain the production of Regina in the Pacific Northwest. But if you jump down and look at Cass, we had 24 tons per hectare with Cass compared to 3.8 tons with Gisela 5. With good fruit size, Cass 24 tons per hectare, fruit size is nearly 28 millimeters. Clare, 15.2 tons per hectare with good fruit size, 29.1 millimeters. So here we're seeing where these rootstocks can potentially consistently increase the yield of some of our lower producing varieties without detrimentally affecting fruit size. Okay, the second thing that the growers were asking about was a rootstock that would provide precocity while moderating the oversetting potential of some of our high-yielding varieties. For you, that might be Royal Dawn, Sweetheart, or Lappins. In the Pacific Northwest, we typically grow Lappins and Sweetheart on Mazard rootstock because we are afraid of growing them on some of our precocious rootstocks. We're concerned about their oversetting potential. So this was a study that I did a few years ago on Sweethearts in the Dalles. You're seeing 3rd to 5th leaf data here, and you see that Mazard has the lowest yield of all of these 4 rootstocks. We have Mazard, we have Gisela 6, we have Crimps 5, and we have Crimps 6. So with Mazard, we're not getting much precocity, and we look at Gisela 6, however, we're getting significant precocity, but we're also getting those very high yields that scare growers, because if you get too much yield with a Sweetheart Gisela 6 combination, you start affecting fruit size, and so our growers stay away from that combination. But with Crimps 5, if you look at Crimps 5, what you see is that you have greater precocity in the 3rd leaf, greater precocity in the 4th leaf, and a moderate level of production in the 5th leaf that keeps those trees from oversetting, that keeps those trees from producing fruit with small fruit size. So that was one study with CRIMPS 5 in the study. I had another study that included Maxima 14 along with CRIMPS 5. This is Sweetheart in the fifth to seventh leaf. And again, you see Mazard on the far left of the slide, has the lowest yield. You see Gisela 6, again with the highest yield. And in some cases, that can be problematic because of that oversetting potential. But you also see Maxima 14 and CRIMPS 5 producing more fruit than Mazard, but not having that oversetting potential that Gisela 6 potentially has. Okay, as we move on, one of our growers said they'd like to see a rootstock that was a lot more like apple rootstocks, with good precocity but more forgiving, and consistently good fruit set without affecting fruit size. And here I'd like to introduce the YG series of rootstocks. There are actually a total of 5 rootstocks developed in Germany. It's a combination, it's a cross between the Weirut rootstocks and the Gisela rootstocks. It's being introduced by Peter Stoppel, who is a grower in the Lake Constance area of southern Germany. And they are introducing 3 rootstocks to the United States, YG 1, 2, and 3. This shows relative tree size of these 3 YG rootstocks compared to Gisela 5. This is data that was collected in the La Tapie Research Station in Provence region of southern France. And you see that YG 1, 2, and 3 are all larger than Gisela 5. The blue bar is Regina, the red bar is Skina. YG 3 is the largest, most vigorous of these rootstocks, and YG 2 is slightly larger than Gisela 5. When we look at yield and fruit weight, the first 4 set of bars on the left are yield and fruit weight with Regina. The second set of 4 bars on the right is with Skina. The blue bar is yield, kilograms per tree, and the orange bar is fruit weight. And you can see with Regina that we're getting excellent fruit size with these 3 rootstocks and excellent yields as well. With Skina, we see the same trend, but at lower yields. The fourth thing that they asked about that they would like to see would be 2 tree vigor levels. They would like to see precocity with vigor. We've got several examples of that we're using already. We've got Gisela 6, Gisela 12, we've got Maxima 14, Maxima 60. But here we can add Gisela 13 and Gisela 17, as well as CRIMPS 5 and 6, and YG 1 and 3. All of those rootstocks will provide us with precocity with greater vigor. But what we have been lacking with cherry rootstocks is a good rootstock that will provide precocity with significant size control. And with these new rootstocks, we find that we do have that. With the Corret series, Clinton, Lake, Cass, Crawford, and Clare, or even with YG 2. This is a study that is ongoing right now in the Pacific Northwest, in Oregon and Washington. The orange bars are my trees, which are KGB and steep leader trees. The blue and green bars are the same study at Washington State University, and they are using an SSA training system. So typically the KGB, the steep leader, is going to make a bigger tree than the SSA, and that's exactly what you see here. Here are the control rootstocks, CRIMPS 5, CRIMPS 6, Gisela 6, and Gisela 5. And you can see then on the right, the 4 rootstocks from the Corret series, Clinton, Clare, Cass, and Lake, are all smaller, significantly smaller, or the same size as Gisela 5. Okay, the last trait that the growers asked to see with these new rootstocks was precocity and size control that performed well in poor soils. And here we look at Gisela 13 and Gisela 17. Gießen Incorporated had been hearing back from growers for some time that they would like to see a rootstock that would perform well in poor conditions. And so that's why they have released both Gisela 13 and Gisela 17. With the release of these two rootstocks, the publicity that came out with them said for Gisela 13 it would provide high yields and good quality under less favorable conditions. We all know what happens with Gisela 6 when you plant it in a poor soil area. It does not perform well. These rootstocks presumably will perform better than Gisela 6 or Gisela 12 under those conditions. Gisela 13 is approximately the same size as Gisela 6, has flat branch angles, no suckering, and it is precocious. Has the same parentage as Gisela 5 and Gisela 6, and in 4 trials, yields after 6 to 13 years were similar or greater than Gisela 5. Let's look at some of the data. So this is data out of Germany, year 7, tree size as represented by the trunk cross-sectional area. And the red bar is Gisela 13. The bar on the left is Gisela 5. You can see that Gisela 13 is about the same size as Gisela 12 and Gisela 6. And here you see yield. Again, the red bar is Gisela 13, and the yields are similar to Gisela 12 and Gisela 6. And now with Gisela 17, again, this was released in order to take care of the complaint that they were getting about the Gisela rootstocks not performing well in poor soils. And they say about Gisela 17 that it's less demanding of soil, climatic, and cultural conditions as compared to Gisela 5. So this is the most vigorous of all of the Gisela rootstocks. It's similar size to Maxima 14, but more precocious. It is Prunus canescens by Prunus avium. And they say there's less potential for overcropping with Gisela 17 than with either Gisela 5 or Gisela 6. So you can combine it with some of your more productive cultivars, like we were talking about earlier, possibly with Lapins and Sweetheart. Here's some data out of the Pacific Northwest. Gisela 17, when we look at the size in Prosser, Washington, was larger than Gisela 5 or Gisela 6. In Summerlin, in the sandy soils that they have there, it was about the same size as Gisela 6. When we look at the yields, 3rd through 7th leaf in Prosser, Washington, it had lower yields than Gisela 5 and Gisela 6. And in Corvallis, Oregon, it had lower yield than Gisela 6. So when we look at these 5 traits that the growers identified as important to them for the new cherry rootstocks, when we look at the increase of productivity of some of the lower yielding varieties, which rootstocks can help to meet that demand, we see the Corret series as possibilities to increasing the productivity of some of our lower yielding varieties. When we look at providing precocity while moderating the oversetting potential of some of our high production varieties like Lapins or Sweetheart, we see that Crimps 5 can possibly do that, maybe even in some cases Crimp 6 and Maxima 14. If we're looking for a rootstock like an apple rootstock, we get good precocity, but more forgiving. We look at YG 1, 2, and 3. And then if we want 2 vigor levels, precocity with vigor, we've got many options, including what we're already using, Gisela 6 and Gisela 12. but we also can look to Gisela 13 and Gisela 17, YG 1 and YG 3. Precocity with size control. Now this is an area that we have not met in the past, but we have the opportunity with YG 2 or the Corret series out of Michigan State University. And then a precocious rootstock that's size controlling and performs well in porous soils. Gisela 13 and Gisela 17 are possible answers to this trait that we are seeking. Okay, we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about some of the new interesting varieties that are out there. We're going to focus on the early ripening varieties, as we heard earlier today. Those are the varieties that are receiving higher returns in the marketplace. So that's where I want to focus on when we look at some of these new varieties that either are available now in Chile or soon will be available in Chile. This is a harvest maturity chart. I put this together with some of the standard varieties that you are currently growing here in Chile. If you look, everything is compared to Bing as far as the timing is concerned. If you look at Bing, you'll see that Ebony Pearl ripens just ahead of Bing. And then you see Santina, and we've got Cherry Moon and Black Pearl that ripen with Santina. The next set of varieties is Royal Dawn, which is a standard for Chile. But we also have Cherry Grand and Rocket that ripen at the same time. And notice that there are a number of varieties now that ripen before Royal Dawn. Some high quality varieties, including Cherry Treat and Pacific Red, Nimba, and the earliest ripening of them all is Cherry Crunch. So let's talk about each one of these varieties individually, and we're going to start with the earliest ripening of these varieties, which is Cherry Crunch. Cherry Crunch was bred and has been released by IFG, which is a table grape and cherry breeding company out of Bakersfield, California. What they focus on are early ripening varieties. Cherry Crunch ripens about 7 days before Royal Dawn. It's not a particularly large cherry. It's about 24 millimeters in size, but there is nothing else on the market at this time. And I related a lot to what we have in the Pacific Northwest, which is Chelan. Chelan is not a large cherry, and yet we sell it all over the world because there is nothing else that will compete with it. There's nothing else on the market at the same time. And that's the situation with Cherry Crunch. It's extremely low chill, 150 to 300 chill hours, which means that we can move Cherry Crunch into areas where you've never produced cherries before. It's being produced in Ovalle and about an hour north of Ovalle, and it has the potential of going into areas towards the coast that are low chill areas. It's very productive. It's extremely firm, 400 to 450 grams per millimeter on the FirmTech scale. That would be probably high 80s on the Durafel. So very, very firm, low pitting potential, and it has great flavor. So what is the significance of Cherry Crunch? The potential significance of Cherry Crunch for the Chilean market is that it's very low chill, it's very early, and it has excellent firmness and excellent flavor. It is self-infertile, so you will need a pollinizer. And IFG has a pollinizer called Cherry Blush, which is a bicolored cherry that blooms with Cherry Crunch and is a little bit larger, and it's 26 millimeters in size. And it can be used as a pollinizer for Cherry Crunch. And then I want to talk about Nimba. This is a variety released by Steve Southwick out of California. It has garnered worldwide interest. I saw it recently in Spain back in May. This is where this picture was taken. Has an S2, S3 allele combination. It can be pollinized by Pacific Red. It's very early, large, 28 millimeters in size, but only moderately firm. A little bit disappointed in the firmness of this cherry, but again, It's early, and you can get away with a lot of deficiencies in early ripening cherries. It is sweet, but rather a weak flavor to it. And I saw some rain cracking in Spain in 2019 on this variety, but there was a lot of rain in Spain this year. Okay, the next cherry I want to talk about is Cherry Treat, another variety out of IFG. It ripens with Royal Dawn, maybe a few days ahead of Royal Dawn. It's a medium chill cherry, 500 to 700 chilling hours, has large fruit, about 30 millimeters in size, and good firmness. Has excellent eating qualities. This is a good tasting cherry. It bears on annual wood, which is similar to what you get with Regina. So what that means is that it will do well with a central leader type training system, but you want to stay away from KGB and UFO type systems with this particular cherry. It's shown good post-harvest quality in the United States and Chile. And the interesting thing about Cherry Treat is that it has an unknown allele that has never been identified in the literature before. So what that means to you as a grower is that you can use anything that blooms with it as a pollinizer for it, and it will pollinate it. So the significance of Cherry Treat for the Chilean industry is that it is early, it's showing good rain crack resistance, and it has great flavor. Okay, Pacific Red, another of Steve Southwick's releases. I saw it this year in Spain. I was very impressed by it. It ripens just before Royal Dawn. It is self-fertile, and it's very large, 30 millimeters in size. It's firm, about 85 on the Durafel scale. It is productive, and it is sweet with a good flavor. Much better flavor and much better firmness than Nimba has, for example. And I saw some cracking, but it was lower cracking than what I saw with Nimba this year. So I think Pacific Red has some good potential. And I'm seeing these SMS varieties planted all over the world. They're being planted in places like Uzbekistan and Moldova and in Europe, as I mentioned, Spain. So very interesting. The next cherry is Cherry Grand, another cherry from IFG. It ripens with Royal Dawn. It's medium chill, so it's going to be 500 to 700 chilling hours, which will do very well in the Rancagua area. No problems there at all. Has good firmness, but it's very large, 32 millimeters in size. In fact, because of its size and its earliness, it received $80 per kilo, $80 per kilo in the Chilean market, the Chinese market this year when it was grown in Australia. And so very impressive. It's commercial in Chile, Australia, and the United States. Pollinizers could potentially be Santina or Lapins. And the significance of Cherry Grand for the Chilean industry is that it is early and it is very large. Frisco is another cherry from Steve Southwick's program. It is Royal Dawn timing, very productive and self-fertile, good size, about 28 millimeters in size, and reasonable firmness, 78 on the Durafel. Again, I'm seeing this cherry being planted all over the world. People are asking about it in places like Moldova and Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan. Good firmness, I mentioned that already, moderate cracking potential, and good flavor with high sugar levels. And then as we move to the Santina timing, we have Cherry Moon, which is another release from IFG. IFG considers this one of their high chill varieties, but when they say high chill, what they mean is 700 chill hours or a little bit more. So really not that high chill. It has good size, about 29 millimeters. Firmness is good. Flavor is good. It ships very well. And this one is commercial here in Chile. Its significance is that it's a mid-early variety for a higher chill area. Here in the Carico area, it would do very well. But even a little bit further north, it could do well. And it has better flavor than Santina. And then there's Black Pearl, which is from Cornell University. And I have been very impressed with Black Pearl for a number of years now. I've had it in my variety trial for, I'm not sure, maybe the last 7 or 8 years. I've been cropping it for at least 5 years, maybe longer than that. Black Pearl ripens with Santina, but it has better flavor than Santina. It has medium strong flavor. It's a sweet flavor with a nice acid balance. It's very firm to crunchy, 365 grams per millimeter on the Firmtech scale. Size is good. It's not the huge cherry, but 28 to 30 millimeters in size, which is very good. It's very productive. I am growing it on Gisela 12. With Gisela 12, you've got to prune it very hard in order to keep it from overproducing. So probably Crimps 5 or Crimps 6 or maybe Maxima 14 might be better rootstocks for Black Pearl. You can do it with Gisela 12, but just prune it very hard every year. It blooms mid-early, S4, S13 allele combination. You can use Santina as a pollinizer or Burgundy Pearl. It has low cracking potential. We do a 2-hour soak on our cherries. And Skeena is one of the higher cracking cherries. It averages 29% cracking after 2 hours of soaking. Black Pearl averages 4.8% cracking. So very low potential for cracking, which is great for an early ripening cherry. Also has low pitting potential. And so it should ship very, very well. It's commercial in both Oregon and Washington, and the growers seem to be quite happy with it there. And then there is Ebony Pearl, again out of Cornell University. It ripens with Bing or maybe just a little bit ahead of Bing. It's very large, 31, 32 millimeters in size. And according to the people that released Ebony Pearl, it says it has good resistance to bacterial canker, which can be very important around the world, but perhaps particularly here in Chile. It has excellent strong flavor. This is the best tasting of the Pearl series cherries. Mostly sweet, but it has a really nice tang to it. This is not as productive as Black Pearl, so Gisela 12 would be a good rootstock for Ebony Pearl. It has an S1, S4 allele combination. Bing, Black Pearl, or Burgundy Pearl could act as pollinizers for it. Cracking potential is relatively low as well. 7% cracking after 2 hours of soaking compared to 29% for Skeena. Pitting potential is approximately the same as Bing's, which is very good. So it's clear that there are exciting new rootstocks and varieties that are either available now or will be available soon to the Chilean industry. We will have rootstocks that will expand our growing potential. We'll have rootstocks that will grow better trees in marginal soils or more balanced trees, higher yields with low yielding varieties, or better balanced yields with high yielding varieties. And obviously, there are several high quality varieties that will advance harvest dates and open up new production areas in the future. I thank you very much for your time and your patience.
Damos las gracias al señor Ling Long por su excelente ponencia. Thank you very much, Mr. Long.